Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Hello and welcome to the Parenting 411, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. I'm your host, Carol Maletta, and today's episode brings us a very special guest who is sure to spice up our conversation with some delightful culinary insights. We're joined by Beth Hodson, the founder of Kids Love to Cook. Since 2014, Beth has been on a mission to bring the joy of cooking into the lives of children. Her incredible journey has her team cooking with tens of thousands of kids across schools, community events, and even online cooking classes, spreading the love for healthy family food. As the mother to 4 daughters and a connoisseur of cooking TV shows, self-help books, and Yorkshire detective mysteries, Beth brings a unique blend of personal and professional expertise to the table. Today, she's here to share her wisdom on a topic close to many parents' hearts. That's teaching kids to cook. From starting toddlers on their culinary journey to navigating the challenges of picky eaters and kitchen safety, Beth has insights and tips that are bound to enrich your family's cooking experience. So grab your aprons and let's dive into a conversation that's sure to be as flavorful as it is informative. Welcome to the Parenting 411, Beth.
Fantastic. So good to be here.
Yes. And I know that a lot of parents would love to tackle picky eating and resistance to sitting down at the dinner table. And I can't imagine another activity that might motivate children more than to sit down and eat what maybe they've helped prepare. So you've talked about you like to discuss the best ways to start children of various ages in cooking. So elaborate on your approach, and let's talk about the young ones first, like age 2 to 5, and then, on up. And, just let us know what the key skills are and, what recipes are suitable to try for each group.
Fantastic. All right, then. So like any sort of skill with littlies, the earlier that we start our kids engaging in food and connecting with cooking equipment, the easier it is. But and when kids are in preschoolers, they're so open to learning, and they're ready to be at that next stage and wanting to be involved in what we as parents are doing. And so often that's the easiest time to get kids involved with the very simple things. So things like buttering a sandwich or a bread roll or toast or something like that is a great way to start. And there's so many great equipment out there that even when my kids were growing up, there was no way there was such a broad range of, safety cutting knives and choppers and all sorts of things that definitely weren't around when my kids were little. But now there is just so many options that you can get your kids starting chopping things. Fruit is a great way to start. So I live in Sydney, Australia, and so it's hot. And not all the time, but definitely at the moment it's very hot. And so kids are much more inclined to eat fruit and in the summer months. And so best way to start is the soft fruits. So things like strawberries and bananas, is a kiwi fruit, great way to start your kids in that early stage. When you've trimmed off all the melon, all sorts of melons can be really easy to cut, because it's often not just the food itself, but it's the actions that they're learning, that every single time they butter bread or slice some strawberries, what they're doing is they're learning a skill that they're going to have for the rest of their life. So, that back and forward. How do you spread butter on a piece of toast?
Sure.
It's one of those things that you learn very, very early how to do it. Do you dig down up and down, or do you spread back and forward? And it seems like it's almost like too easy to verbalize, but when our kids are little, it's a great way to get those skills in early.
And it just helps children feel useful and more confident when they are helping, because that's what they want to do. That's what they ask a lot, and many times we are in a rush and we just say, oh, I'll do it this time, you can do it next time, and then next time just keeps getting pushed out, and then we have children that don't know how to do some very simple things. So I really like what you're talking about there. How about for the next group, maybe 5 to 9, what could they be doing?
Beautiful. So baking is the next step. So baking is when, as parents or caregivers, we're able to manage any risk. So kids might have they learn how to stir, they've learned how to spread, they've learned how to do that simple cutting, but then we get onto baking. And so baking is when the kids have learnt the basics and they're ready for the next stage. And there is so many elements to baking. So it's hand and eye coordination. It's possibly reading a recipe or reading a recipe card if you've got a picture recipe card. It's also learning about language. There are so many words that are involved in cooking. That is language development. So, we learn about cracking eggs, and kids love to crack eggs. So learning how to, I use what's called the tap and crack method. So we tap really nice and gently, and then we crack it. And whenever I'm in a class and I'll say, who wants to crack an egg? Oh, everyone loves learning how to crack an egg. So, and then there's learning to stir, learning how do we stir, so that we get everything stirred properly. We don't end up with flour or sugar at the bottom of the bowl in a pocket. Then there's also measuring, and measuring is a bit of a skill in itself.
Math.
And it's the difference between, in many recipes, it's the difference between the success and a failure of a recipe. So learning to make sure that we fill the cup all the way to the right measure. And I've been using these measuring cups when I go into schools, and the kids will fill them up to like halfway. And I go, no, it's got to be all the way to the top. And that's to make sure that our muffins aren't too wet or too dry or whatever. And, learning, or something might be not sweet enough. And if we're baking, let's say we bake chocolate muffins. If you put cocoa and not enough sugar, then you're going to have really bitter muffins. So, and then they won't be nice. So learning to measure is a great skill. Again, once you've learned that skill, it just becomes innate. It's like driving. It becomes innate. And even if you don't cook for 10 years and you come back to it, you just know, I've got to fill my measuring cup all the way to the top. So baking is really good. And then we're also learning about beating, whisking, stirring, melting. And then there's other things like lining a cookie tray or a cookie sheet. In Australia, we call them cookie sheet. And so lots of little things. So just from the point of, I'm going to bake choc chip cookies, there's lots of little things, that little skills that we do along that process, that it really empowers our kids with confidence and with skills. And then at the end, the reward, oh my goodness, is beautiful choc chip cookies. Well, what's not to love about that?
Absolutely.
So,
We'll be right back after this. If you're looking to reach a massive audience of parents and caregivers, then look no further than Pro Picks by the Parenting 411, the ultimate marketing program designed to skyrocket your brand to new heights. With Pro Picks, we've created 3 incredible packages to suit your marketing needs and budget. So let's take a look. First up is our social starter package. You'll receive a stunning graphic promo piece, plus we'll also feature your brand on the Parenting 411 Instagram page. It's the perfect way to make a memorable first impression and get parents buzzing about your business. Now, if you're ready to level up, our Parenting Pro package is where it's at. You'll enjoy all the benefits of the social starter package, plus more awesome benefits, including exposure on the Parenting 411 podcast, which reaches parents in more than 22 countries each week. But wait, there's more. For those seeking the pinnacle of marketing power, our Elite Exposure package is the way to go. You'll get even more exposure across our platform, including thousands of followers and connections on LinkedIn. Get ready to dominate the airwaves and establish yourself as the go-to resource for families everywhere. Take advantage of Pro Picks by the Parenting 411 today and unlock unparalleled marketing opportunities for your business. But I should tell you that prices are set to increase on November 1st, so act now. Pro Picks by the Parenting 411 is your passport to the hearts and minds of parents. Visit ProPicksbyP411.com. Join us today and watch the magic happen. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
The beautiful thing about baking is that as caregivers, we're able to manage the risk. So if you've got to pop something, like you might melt some butter in the microwave or melt butter on a stove, then caregivers, they're able to manage that until the kids are old enough or skilled enough to be able to do that, and putting things in and out of the oven. So that's another thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then that's probably what the older kids can do, the teens, in terms of handling that, removing things from the oven and all. I mean, they can do that pretty easily. And so what kinds of things do you work with older, teens or guide parents in getting their teens more involved in helping out with cooking?
Yeah. So that's when we move into meals. And because we're moving away from, say, I'm learning, I can cook a brownie, or I can cook muffins, or I can cook chocolate chip cookies or something like that. But then upping the skill level even further is when we learn about how do we cook pasta, how do we cook rice, how do we fry an egg, or eggs or bacon or mushrooms, or how do we do that? And so the kids start to learn. One of the things that I find funny, and I love it, is flipping pancakes. That Saturday or Sunday morning tradition that we often have. And we've made the batter, which is a great, what I call a junior cook. That's that mid-range skill level. But then flipping a pancake, oh my goodness, that's, I think we've all experienced where we're moving the spatula and we're trying to flip, and that little sucker is moving to the side. And then you turn it over and, oh gosh, it's spilled, or it's all up the side. And so such a little skill that the more that we do anything in life, the better that we become in it. So when the kids move to 9, 10, 11, or again, as they've increased in their skills, I've had some incredible kids come through, and that's when we move into the meals. So the rice, the pasta, learning how to cook sauce, and vegetables and meals, noodles, all of that sort of thing. And so I encourage kids to get involved in that. And we run a program where we do, it's a 1 meal a week that the kids get to choose to do, and then they are involved in that. And they learn. So again, it's still entry level. So it's entry level in terms of it's simple and not too many crazy ingredients, because the more ingredients that we add to a recipe, number one is, I don't know about you, but definitely I don't want to open up my sauce pantry, and there's like 5 sauces at the very back that I used in a recipe, 6 years ago.
Oh, right.
And that will never
Right.
I know. And we did a recipe the other day. We used tamarind paste. And
Okay.
so for me, that's not something that I would use on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly at all. And so what we did is, I was saying to our parents, let's provide another way of using the same flavor, because it's a balance of bitter, sour and sweet. Sour and sweet, sorry. And so learning how to, I think we did lemon juice and brown sugar or something like that, so that we keep the recipes simple,
Right.
without having some, random ingredients, so that, because every extra ingredient that a parent looks at is an opportunity to say no. Is like, oh gosh, we don't have that, we can't do that recipe. And so you're wanting to be able to choose recipes for the kids that everybody in the family loves, and you've got all the available ingredients, and then it becomes yes. Oh yes, you can help me boil the pasta, or yes, you can make a Napolitana sauce, or yes, you can make pizza, or whatever you choose to eat in your family. It's getting the kids involved in those basics. And I know some families start teaching their kids how to use the rice cooker from a really early age.
Right.
And so it might be, okay, your job is to learn how to use the rice cooker from the time you're 7. And so, and getting that water level right, and making sure they've washed the rice, and, all of those little skills. And if you use rice on a regular basis, then that's something that, you want to be able to know how to do from a very early age.
And so, a lot of parents are, worried sometimes about the knives and that those are the kinds of things that hold them back. So it's the knives as well as the stove, like operating the stove. And so what kind of tips do you have for parents to move past that, and so that their children can learn to cook a little younger and not wait until they're heading off to college and need to know how to cook, and then they have to do a crash course on all of this stuff at once?
Great. So there is gradients of knives. So I always, I wish I had them with me, but I start off with one of those kiddie knives that a 2-year-old can use, where it's the right fit in their hand and they're learning the action. And in Australia, there's quite a popular product that we have, and it's a kiddie cutter or something like that. And it's got a little serrated edge, but it doesn't cut skin. So it's a great tool for kids to be able to use, and they're learning how to use 2 hands. So you've got one hand holding your item and you're using the other one. And I always say, pretend that you're chopping down a tree. So getting that action of back and forward, not just pressing down on the knife. So that's once they've mastered that, then they get to this point where they get a little frustrated. And in that frustration, that's when you know that they're ready for the next stage. So, and then you can move them on to another knife that might be a full length knife, but it isn't as sharp as the next one along. And so then again, getting the action, getting the weight. I use I think it's a scan pan salad knife or lettuce knife or something. And so, no, you can't hurt yourself, but you're going to get that action and the feeling of, oh, I can do more things. And then again, that frustration, oh, gee, I can't cut the carrot, or I can't do whatever it is, the potato. Then, you, as a parent or a caregiver, oh, they're ready. They're ready to have to go to the next level. And that can be like it, as a parent, allowing or positioning your child to be in a possibly risky situation. It's scary, isn't it?
Sure.
It's as scary as letting didn't go to college, and that's where my season are at. And so again, we manage it. So let's say you've got a potato and you want your 11-year-old to cut a potato. So I would start with chopping the potato in half so that it's in half and stable, and then watching them. And there's lots and lots of YouTube videos out there. Jamie Oliver does this great one on different kinds of knife skills. And so we use what's called the bridge method. And the bridge method is when you've got your hand over the top of the potato, let's say, and you're taking the blade underneath. So again, teaching the kids the next step in that skill level and watching them and making sure that the blade and skin have got nowhere to meet. So yes. So
it sounds like,
so
that's good. It sounds like there's definitely an art to it. So that's good.
Yeah.
Now I know some children, struggle with food allergies, and so so eating isn't always fun, especially if they see other people eating something that they can't have and what have you. So how can parents, find recipes or get those children interested in food and realizing that there are lots of things that they can have. They have some limitations, but there's some interesting foods that they can eat.
Great. Well, earlier this year, I was diagnosed celiac. So I have navigated this walk of, wherever I go out, it's can I eat that? And my husband asks, can you eat that? And so I understand the frustration of going places and not being able to eat something. But never before in history has there been so much available. And like in terms of ingredients. And we use this word called swappables. And so a swappable ingredient is an ingredient that you can use in place of. So you might, like, let's say we're making, again, let's go back to our muffins. So, let's go. I make this cookies called, I think they're called easy banana oat cookies. And they're great little mix and stir, spoon it on the tray, job done. And but then we can provide a swappable ingredient. So a lot of people can't eat oats. So nowadays you can get quinoa flakes, which is a little swap out. And so it's looking for swappable ingredients. So never before has there been so much available information on Google, available for us to be able to swap out the ingredients. So, and it might not be just for food allergies, but there might be lots of other reasons why you're not able to eat a recipe. Start that again. There might be lots of reasons why your family can't eat a particular ingredient, whether that's food allergies. It might be.
That's me, tree nuts.
Tree nuts. Yeah, totally. And so there are so many swappable ingredients now that we can use to swap out in place of something. And sometimes we just simply don't have an ingredient in the pantry and we want to cook something immediately and we want to find an alternative. So, but that's very much a great, it's very much a great, what's the word I'm trying to say? I'll start again. So it's very much, there's so much resource out there on the internet that enables us to be able to swap out ingredients in a recipe. And I'm always trying things. And sometimes my trial recipes fail. And one of the great things about cooking is that it also teaches us about life. And I'm constantly thinking about how cooking correlates with when we're trialing new things in life. And sometimes we might try a recipe. Last week I trialed, and it might sound awful, but it was actually really nice. I tried black bean brownies. And so I thought, is this going to be, oh, let's give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, oh my gosh, it was terrible. It was terrible. But I didn't land. I didn't say, this defines me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm a hopeless cook. Job over. I said, oh, that didn't work. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to tweak the recipe a little bit. I'm going to follow it a little bit closer. And then the next time, it was amazing and actually really soft and delicious and sweet and yummy. So
that's interesting. What made you think about making black bean brownies?
okay, yeah, because I find that our followers tend to fall into two camps. So you've got families that are really focused on health
Mm-hmm.
and want low sugar, lots of veggies, and low wheat. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
a whole lot of people that, that's their value.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another group of people that that sort of thing isn't so much a value that they have, but it might be more about, I just want my kids to eat and keep the budget low. And
Sure.
so therefore less veggies, maybe a little bit more carbohydrates. And so, it's finding recipes that suit everybody.
Well,
or giving a range of options.
Well, I would love it if you could figure out a way to make macarons or macaroons without almond flour. I have yet to be able to taste them because apparently that's an essential ingredient.
Totally.
So
No,
if you ever find something swappable there, I'd love to know about it.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, that one. Yeah. And sometimes I'll research, I'll say, oh, okay, let me find a vegan recipe for, it could be anything. Like, so then I found pavlova, because pavlova or meringue, which is quite an Australian thing, pavlova. But meringue is full of eggs. And so I had some vegan families come to me and I thought, oh, okay, I need to find if this is such a thing that we can make pavlova as a vegan form. And you can use it using the water, the water in the can of chickpeas or garbanzo beans. And so who knew? Who knew? Because it's so full of protein,
right.
It whips up into this really beautiful, you add sugar, and so a little bit softer, but it's the same sort of concept. So it's just incredible what's out there on the internet. And yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not feeling very hopeful though. When I mentioned the macaroons, you sounded like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a Filipino a recipe, which I think it's the same word, macaroon or coconut macaroon, I think it is. And so you can use coconut. It's different texture. It's not as nice as a macaroon, but without flour. But it's
And can't have that either. I can't have that either.
That's no. Yeah.
Oh goodness. So
it's tricky.
Now let's talk about after. I guess. Well, I don't want to jump to that yet. Before we get into what happens after cooking that, kids might not be as excited about. What do you think? What are some effective ways to help children really love cooking? Like kind of move beyond the functional bit, but to really feel confident that they can try new things and really develop a love for cooking?
I think as caregivers, the culture that we set in our home or in the learning environment is everything. And so I think when we're going to plan to cook, so I have a couple of things. Plan when you're going to cook. So you might say to your kids, all right, tomorrow morning we're going to cook, or this afternoon, let's cook together. And so that plan to cook, and give some lead time. So it's not drop everything that you're doing and we're going to do it straight away. Give your kids notice, because nobody wants to be told, right, we're going to do this straight away. We all need that little bit of emotional preparation time to be able to finish what we're doing and then be able to move on to the next activity that we're going to do. So giving some lead time is an important one, and creating a really positive environment. And we're going to have a great time, and laying any ground rules right at the beginning. So at the beginning of every class that I do, whether it's online or whether it's in person, I always say the 5 things that I always talk about, which is wash your hands, keep your hands away from your nose and your mouth, cough and sneeze into your elbow, speak nicely about food, which is a real key one, and keep your utensils pointing downwards. And so right from the get-go, I set the culture that we're always going to speak nicely about food. And then there's always, in an in-person session, there's always a child that doesn't like tomatoes. And so, or some ingredient that we're using that they might not like. And so I'll say, okay, bit of freedom. You don't have to eat it, but yeah, I just want you to do the activity. So that's in my in-person classes. But in terms of families, planning, creating a positive environment, and communicating what we're going to do throughout the session. So right at the beginning, this is what I would say. Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to set up, we're going to cook, we're going to clean, and then we're going to eat at the end. And so right from the beginning, I've set the culture that cleaning is part of it. And at the end of every online session, I say, pack, wash, wipe. And we have these downloadable posters that parents can put up in their kitchen that just to remind, we pack away all of the ingredients and any utensils, any ingredients that we haven't used. We wash up or stack the dishwasher, and then we wipe down the bench. So that repetitive, this is what we do, this is normal. So again, any session that I do, I'll say, we're going to set up. So, setting up the recipe, reading through it, getting out all of your ingredients ready to go. That's setting up. Cooking, obviously cooking is cooking the recipe, cleaning, and then of course the joy at the end is eating. And that's a great little incentive to do at the very end.
We'll be right back after this. Are you a parent looking to unlock your potential in raising confident, capable, and courageous children? Well, look no further. Join us at the upcoming Parent and Purpose Summit Back to School Edition, where parenting experts from around the world will come together to share their wisdom and insights. I'm Carol Maletta, founder of the Parenting 411. This summit is your opportunity to gain essential skills and tools to become the parent you've always aspired to be. Over 5 incredible days, we'll dive deep into topics like positive discipline, effective communication, mental health, self-care, school readiness, and more. An attendee from our last summit told us, "This summit changed my parenting game. I feel more confident and connected with my children than ever before." So secure your seat at the Parent and Purpose Summit today. Visit parentandpurposesummit2023.com. That's parentandpurposesummit2023.com. And click the registration button to join us on this transformative journey. The Parent and Purpose Summit, where intentional parenting begins. And we're back with the Parenting 411. Now, how long are your sessions typically?
It depends on the recipe, but yeah, I did a recipe yesterday. I cooked a recipe with our online team yesterday, and I said to the guys, "Oh, the recipe says 30 minutes setup." I said, "That's just way too long." And then when we got to 40 minutes, I said, I was right, wasn't I? It definitely would have taken 30 minutes. So the majority of our online classes are about an hour.
Okay.
I leave it because I don't rush through it. And most kids have got an hour that when they're doing something and they're involved and they're hands-on, happy to do an hour. Any more than that, and it's a bit complex. I have run in the past, I have run classes for what we call challenger kids, and they're kids that have got lots of skills. They're older kids usually that are able to manage 2 or 3 recipes at a time. So we might say we're going to cook, let's say we're going to cook a salsa, we might make chili con carne, and we're going to make a chocolate brownie. So there's kind of a multiple things. I know.
Yeah.
It's a dinner time for you. And so, and they're longer because, again, we don't rush through anything, because we want the kids to not be frantic, but to be enjoying that cooking process. And even in that, I always communicate, if you feel yourself getting frantic, then just turn off the stove or turn off the beaters, or take a couple of minutes to just calm down. You'll always come back to where you were at, drink your water, defrag, and then come back and then start again. Because sometimes, again, when we're learning any new skill, I was setting up my microphone before and I'm trying to read it and, getting a bit overwhelmed. And I thought, if I walk away and I come back, I will sort this out and it won't be so complex. And so, again, cooking is an opportunity for us to be learning about problem solving and just a wider variety of skills in life.
How about picky eaters? Do you have any advice for parents of picky eaters?
Yeah, involvement. One of my daughters only got to the point when she was in early teens when she would only eat 10 foods. It was crazy. And teenage children can sometimes go through that. And one of the things that I did was I said to her, well then, honey, if you don't want to eat what we're eating, then you're going to have to start helping me cook what you want to cook. And which she embraced completely. But coming back to that concept that I introduce of, if you're in an in-person class with me where you're cooking together next to me and you don't want to eat an ingredient, that's okay. You don't have to. But I want you to do the activity, and then the rest of us will eat it, and you can just you can eat the bits or the foods that you want to eat. And I do this activity when we often make Mexican food in our classes, and tomatoes this is a great activity that I've seen work again and again and again, and it works on a sort of a positive peer pressure type of situation. And what I will do is say, okay, we're going to all chop up our tomato. Now, if you don't want to eat the tomato, you don't have to eat it at all. But let's start dicing up our tomato. Okay, the kids start dicing it up. And then the next step is I want you to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of lemon. And then I want you to taste it. And so then suddenly there's this shift, and the kids that are participating in this activity will say, oh my gosh, no, I need a bit more salt and I need a bit more lemon. And then invariably, I couldn't believe it when it first happened. The child that is there saying, I don't want to eat the tomato, suddenly decides, oh, well, I'm missing out on the fun here because these guys are like, oh, yeah. And so I think every single time I've done this, there'll be a child that will say, well, I ate a tomato or I ate a piece. And that's really what it's all about. being brave enough to try something. And again, I've set that culture at the beginning of the class or the beginning of the session where I've said, we always speak nicely about food. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it, but we always speak nicely. And then the other kids will say, if they hear a yuck or that's disgusting, then the other kids will go, you know, just say that. And so there's this peer involvement that gets involved as well. So whether, you know, that's a sibling or when it's in a family setting. But yeah, so ownership when you're cooking for yourself, there is a different energy or a different ownership when you are slicing up tomatoes or slicing up carrots or something that you have made yourself, whether it's a choc chip cookie, whether you've been involved in making that, you feel very different than when it's plonked in front of you and you don't understand the heart that's gone into that. So involvement is everything.
Well, that's what I was
one other
thinking.
thing well, one other thing that some of our families do is involve kids in the meal choosing process.
Yes.
So this tends to be for over 8s where you might say to your kids, okay, one night a week or one night a fortnight or a month, we're going to sit down together and we're going to choose the menu for the next 2 weeks. And so, and you might give the framework of what your family does. So it might be, as an example, it might be Taco Tuesday, it might be Fish Friday, it might be Meat-Free Monday, and or it might be what we call hot pot, where you know, it's slow cooker day, where you might have, if you've got football training and then you've got to come home and, okay, so we're going to choose a menu and the item has to go into the slow cooker on a Tuesday afternoon, on a Tuesday morning. And so getting the kids involved in that process, again, it's ownership. So I want chicken schnitzels on next Thursday, or I don't want this, or oh no, we're not going to have vegetarian lasagna. And so there's an interplay and exchange of ideas and making that a collaborative affair very, very powerful. So
yeah, some of those things you talked about we did as well. And like Thursday night was kind of a leftover night, like kind of the other, you know, there were little bits of this and that and we'd kind of have all of it on the table. But that was something that we did. And often Fridays that was pizza night. But yeah, we did a lot of that that kind of stuff as well. You talked a little bit about your personal experience with your daughter that, you know, arose because there were certain things she didn't want to eat. I was just wondering, prior to that, did you have any sort of special cooking traditions that you had with them in general starting from when they were young?
Definitely. So I've got 4 daughters, and they're old. My youngest is 19 now, so we've gone through that journey. And I was a stay-at-home mum for quite a few periods of years. And so baking was very much part of like baking sweets or cookies or muffins. And some of my girls are able to make the same recipes without even looking at the recipe, and just starting early and being involved. And I started the cooking school because my daughter said to me, Mum, I really, really want to do cooking classes. And we had moved to an area where it was well over an hour away to go to the nearest one, and it was ridiculously expensive. And I thought, wow, we're in a big family area. There must be loads of other families that are looking for the same thing as well. So, so again, we've done all the things that I do with our community is what I've done with my own kids. So getting them involved early and picking menus and baking with them and washing up. Like I remember putting my little one at a stool with a sink, and she washed up for so long. And I realized, oh, well, this is a bit of fun. Like I hadn't done that with the others, but Annalise, she felt like a big girl. And so
Mhm.
she was just washing up, and she was washing plastic cups or something or other. And yeah, but again, when they're little, they're so keen to
Mhm.
get to that next level, particularly if there are siblings or cousins or neighborhood kids around, or community kids that that are role modeling to them. They
Mhm.
want to be with the kids, and I think that's a
Mhm.
really beautiful way of doing life.
Yeah, I remember not with cooking. I didn't take as a child, I didn't take to it like my brother and older brother and sister did. But I do remember the cleaning, the washing the dishes. So I remember saying, because I'm the youngest, I was about 5, and I said, "Oh, I don't get to wash the dishes," because they had assigned nights and whatever in the family. And so
Mhm.
my mother was like, "Oh, we can fix that." And she put a chair up to the sink, and that's how I started washing dishes. And really, to this day, I like washing dishes. It's very relaxing to me. And I'm very particular. I like to get them clean. I don't like um, remnants of food, residue of food on the plates and pots and pans and things like that. So that's how I got my start. I say I shouldn't have opened my mouth, but I mean, I was right on the schedule. I mean, it wasn't just fun. It was okay. So this is your time. These are your days that you're gonna wash the dishes. So, but yeah, so I enjoyed talking about this with you. How can we follow you and keep up with what you're doing?
Beautiful. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Kids love to cook. That's always my handle, and on the website as well. But Instagram, I'm there every day, and
Oh, every day.
just every day I'm either on stories or and just seeing what I do. So there's always something going on. There's always cooking to be done, either
That's
with
true.
myself or with groups that I'm with, or what we've got coming up. So yeah.
So you share what you're cooking at home too?
It's sometimes, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And sometimes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because my husband will say, "Oh, are you taking a photo of our food again?"
Oh.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, I'm
Funny.
so glad we talked about this because I know a lot of parents want to, well, they want to get their children involved with cooking, but sometimes they wait too late, or it's not too late. I shouldn't use that term, but they wait later than they should, and they really can get children involved very early on, so that in the teen years they really can help, and it can be helpful, not only fun but also helpful to the family when they participate. So that's great. And so I hope everybody has enjoyed this. Please follow. Be sure to follow Beth at Kids Love to Cook on the social media platforms, and check her out every day. It sounds like she's saying she's got something for you to look at every day. So by all means, check that out. And thank you for listening. Continue to follow the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can catch the video of this interview. And by all means, like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And remember that it's never too late to be the parent that you want to be. See you next time.